Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the first Blue-Cloud 2026 webinar. We are going to wait a couple of minutes for people to join. I see that the room is starting to fill. So let's just give a couple of minutes. Okay. I believe you can all see my screen. Okay, we will try to start at 11 sharp. So I'll just give another 1 minute because there's lots of content to be discussed today. Okay, well, while people continue joining our room, let me introduce myself. I'm Federico Drago from Trust IT, and I am the outreach manager of the Blue-Cloud 2026 project. It's a New Horizon Europe project that started this January, and it acts as the follow-up initiative to the Horizon 2020 Blue-Cloud project. Today, we are going to launch the first webinar of this new project, and it is part of the Blue-Cloud Training Academy, which is, as you can see here, a new addition to the Blue-Cloud offer. It will offer a series of courses, a series of online courses and materials on how to best use the Blue-Cloud services and the virtual labs. And also, we will provide a series of webinars on FAIR data, on how to share FAIR data from marine research infrastructures, data repositories, and other topics related to FAIR culture. Today, the first webinar will talk about the virtual research environment, which is probably the core infrastructure of the entire Blue-Cloud framework. You will see here some other of the topics that are listed for the next events we have in line. Of course, there's the data discovery and access service, the thematic virtual labs, the workbenches for essential ocean variables. This is another thing which is new in the Blue-Cloud project, and my colleague Pasquale Pagano will talk a bit more about these assets in his presentation. And of course, the best practices for FAIR data principles. So keep an eye on the Blue-Cloud website. You will find the upcoming events in the events section of our website, and you will find the link there. Today, as we were saying, we will delve deeper into the virtual research environment. After my presentation, Pasquale Pagano from CNR, the Italian National Research Council, will introduce the Blue-Cloud 2026 project. After him, Massimiliano Assante will present the virtual research environment itself and will explain how to use it, how it's used to build, host, and operate virtual labs. Then Francesco Palermo from CMCC will represent one of the virtual labs that were developed in the previous Blue-Cloud and will be expanded and improved in the current Blue-Cloud. And then, of course, we have room for some questions and answers for you. Please use the Q&A function on Zoom to post your questions. So instead of the chat, that would be best for us. So this way the panelists can take a look at the questions and they can think of the answer as well and even type it if time allows. Just one final slide I wanted to share with you. So today we have about half of the audience is from research and academia organizations, but then we have quite an interesting mix of also other groups. And as you can see on the right, we have people that are joining also from outside of Europe, which is very interesting for us. It means that the project has grown quite a bit over the past years, and it's very nice for us to welcome you to the world of Blue-Cloud. And with this, I will leave it to Pasquale Pagano for his presentation of the Blue-Cloud project.
Thanks, Federico. I am Pasquale from CNR, in Italy, as Federico said. I am the Blue-Cloud 2026 Scientific Coordinator. And in this presentation, I first of all welcome all of you to this first webinar, and I will give you an overview of the project. Some or most of the slides that I'm using for this part are a courtesy of Sarah Pitonet, that is from Tri-IT and is our project manager in Blue-Cloud. So let me start with the formal, coordination coordinates of the project. Blue-Cloud 2026 is a federated European fair and open research ecosystem for oceans, seas, coastal, and inland waters. It just started this year in January, and it will last at the end of June 2026. It received, a contribution from the European Commission, a bit less of 9 million euros. So it builds upon the pilot Blue-Cloud project that we developed in the previous years. And the idea is to extend, the cyber platform that was developed by Blue-Cloud as a way to access multidisciplinary data set and to provide to the community analytical services, computing facilities that are essential for the blue economy and blue science. So Blue-Cloud aims to transform this pilot into a federated European ecosystem that deliver in stable way, fair and open data. It delivers in open access analytical services, and these are to promote the research of oceans, seas, coastal, and inland waters. The way we are building it is an extension to EOSC, so a thematic marine extension tailored to deliver open web-based science. So all that you will see today is also accessible online already in open access. So all the facilities that will be presented later on by Massimiliano and Francesco, you will have the possibility to access and use already now. So the consortium is very large. There are 40 partners from 13 countries. I put all the information in the slide in such a way that you can download the slides later on and you can get additional information if you need. Let me say that we start from the strategic roadmap that we developed in Blue-Cloud. This was a roadmap towards 2030, and the idea is to evolve the pilot that we developed as a European fair marine digital knowledge ecosystem. And this again is to build a sort of incubator for data analysis and modeling methods in support of the applied research of the ocean. And this will be an element, a thematic pillar in EOSC, and will complement and contribute to the European digital twin of the ocean. So it is part of a EU mission to restore our ocean and waters with this approach, as a federated European ecosystem, and it will contribute, as a thematic marine extension tailored for web-based science and tailored for to support blue economy, marine environment, and marine knowledge agenda. So it will do this in collaboration with other initiatives. First of all, with our, let me say, sister project that is called, Aqua Infra, but also with the Iliad project with clearly the European Digital Twin of Ocean editor. So there are three key assets that we start from that were developed in Blue-Cloud pilot. So one is the Blue-Cloud Data Discovery and Access Service. It federates key European data management infrastructure in order to deliver and facilitate users in performing first, in the first phase, discovery of the data sets and then access to these data sets. Then we developed the Blue-Cloud virtual research environment that offer a range of services that support, orchestration and of computing and analytical services. And by using these computing infrastructure, storage infrastructure, we developed a number of virtual labs that were configured to support specific demonstrators that implement, services that are now available as open access services. In Blue-Cloud 2026, this is the overall, let me say, all the activities that we will develop. We will extend, just very briefly through the activities, we will extend, the data discovery and access service with additional, federating additional data infrastructures in such a way that, again, it will become an asset that facilitates users in accessing, discovering and accessing high quality data sets. We will extend also the virtual research environment that we implement with additional services and additional resources provided by EOSC and by other projects that we have collaboration with. We introduce, 3 new workbenches that are for developing and testing analytical workbenches for generating high qualified data collections. There will be one essential over ocean variables for physics, one for ecosystem, and one for eutrophication. Then we will develop also additional demonstrators through these virtual laboratories. We added, 3 new virtual laboratories while keeping operating, the ones that we developed in Blue-Cloud. So one will be on coastal ocean observations along Europe. Another one will be on coastal currents from observation. And the third one will be on carbon plankton dynamics. Then we will extend and empower the marine environmental indicators that was developed in the previous project that will be presented today by Francesco. And we will also extend the global fishery atlas that will merge, the work that was performed in Blue-Cloud to deliver, a unique and global fishery atlas. These are all the details, again, on who will contribute to which virtual laboratory and the topics, data types that will be covered. Again, I put these in the slide in such a way that you can get all the information that you may need, later on. Then there will be clearly a large part, an important part of the project on outreach, engagement, and education. And the training academy is the novelty that we introduce in this project with the aim, to make a, to outreach, all the services that we deliver in open access mode. And this is, the first webinar, as Federico said before. Then also we will work, on a revision and, of our strategic roadmap to 2030 and on the sustainability part. These are the projects that we are working with. They are, part of our synergies program. These are all the projects that we already discussed and integrate. And these are, projects and initiatives, not only European initiatives, but also international, clearly. So, very briefly, towards the end of my welcome, let me say that there is one overarching approach that we adopt, starting from the bottom. So we decided to develop, upstream services to federate, the large blue infrastructures that collect data in order to simplify discovery and access. And to do this, we decided to standardize as much as possible using standard vocabularies provided by OGCIs or W3C in such a way to enable, interoperability solution and across heterogeneous, data providers. And when we have this base of data that can be discovered and accessed on top, we develop, services. So the downstream services that we build on top and made available through the VRE Blue-Cloud VRE platform are, can use, all the data sets and all the data that have been, made interoperable thanks, to the upstream services. And this idea is to really enable open science, so to support collaboration, because our environments are open and people can register and exploit all the services that are, made available by the other researchers. It enables sharing, but not only sharing of data, but also sharing of methods, sharing of tools, sharing of execution of applied models. And every time a user share, a research product with another user, it does not only share, for example, a data set, but it also share, the provenance that is automatically generated by the VRE that that include, all the parameters that were used with the method, an analytical method to generate a data set. In such a way, the user that received this product can reuse the product, can change the parameter, can reproduce the execution, or can change the parameters and generate a new data set. And this is why we say that Blue-Cloud VRE promote open science. So this end, my welcome. I leave now the space to Massimiliano to present, the way we enable these main features through the services in the Blue-Cloud VRE. So I stop sharing my screen and I leave the space to Massimiliano.
Thank you, Pasquale. I'll try now to share my screen. Okay, so we now move to the VRE Open Science Services for Building, Hosting, and Operating Virtual Labs part. I'm Massimiliano Assante. In Blue-Cloud 2026, I lead the work package devoted to the operation and evolution of the VRE, as well as the interactions with the EOSC. So let me start from the key products and services that we developed in the previous pilot project. Just to say that in this presentation, we will not be covering the data discovery and access service part that will have a dedicated webinar later on during the project lifetime. So we will be covering the Blue-Cloud Virtual Research Environment Platform and the features that offers to the virtual laboratories that can be built on top of it. So this is a very wide introduction of the VRE. It will treat some technical aspects, but not, of course, not every technical aspect. We will be, say, doing later on during the project specific and focused, say, technical webinars on the use of some features of the virtual research environment platform. So let me start with the context of the VRE. So because the Blue-Cloud VRE platform is based on the D4Science infrastructures. The D4Science promotes open science practices through the operation of data infrastructure services, and it does so by leveraging on external systems. And with external systems, we mean something like the data, the storage services, also computational resources and cloud computing infrastructures that are external to D4Science itself. And it does so by exposing them as a common unified space of resources. So in this figure, in this picture that you have here, you see that D4Science is in the middle between the external systems and the community that uses the infrastructures. So we and T4Science serve diverse community of researchers and with tailored services and sharing tools. And we made accessible these services and sharing through tools through web-based and on-demand environment called Virtual Labs. So still more on T4Science, it is built as a dedicated service leveraging on existing infrastructures and other domain-specific infrastructure. It is extensible in the sense that it integrates services and resources resulting from existing initiatives, and it's open by promoting open science and open science practices. So let's see how this system of systems support and promote open science practices for data-driven science. So in this picture here, you see the classic, cycle of scientific research, where you start from, for instance, from a research data. You use a research software, so you can import your software in the infrastructure to, let's say, process the research data and obtain other research data as a result that you perhaps would publish as a scientific results. And this, is let the other researchers restart from your previous result. So in T4Science and the Blue-Cloud VRE enable the repeatability, the reproducibility, and the reuse of this research data, and also the scientific process. It promotes active collaboration, effective sharings by maintaining also provenance and attribution. So we will be seeing this in the next slides. And it does so by adopting an as-a-service approach, standards as the ones that Pasquale has shown before, and it does so by doing economy of scale to reduce operational costs. So let me take the pictures of before and let's see how Blue-Cloud fits in the picture. So if you can see here, Blue-Cloud has its own VRE with its own external system federated. So just to shed some light on what you see. And if we go now and see within the content you are seeing, what would you see? How is the logical view of the Blue-Cloud VRE today? So in this picture here, we see diverse sections and boxes. So if we start from the bottom, we see that there are a number of federated resources, VRE federated resources coming from external and internal infrastructures and already that are part of Blue-Cloud 2026. So among which you can see the logos. So and on top of them, there is T4Science with its own layer, the abstraction layer, that is formed by different enabling and core services, among which we have, of course, an identity and access management service. We have an information system that provide information on the different resources of the infrastructures, resource managers, and other enabling services that are needed for the operation of this, say, layer of abstraction that T4Science create. And within this, we offer a storage engine, a common storage engine that can be used and can be exploited by the community that is using the VRE, and an analytics computing framework that offers diverse and several type of tools for doing data science and data analysis by exploiting let's say the physical resources provided by the federated infrastructures below. So if we move now to the say top rectangle here, we see that there exists the Blue-Cloud gateway that is accessible under blue-cloud.v4science.org, where the virtual labs resides. So here you see virtual lab 1 to virtual lab 5, because this was the setting of the pilots of the previous pilots. But of course, these virtual labs are meant to grow within the Blue-Cloud 2026 project. Then we have the project VLabs, in the sense that because the technology below is useful also for, let's say, managing the project communication and let's say common data spaces, common cloud storage. So we have virtual labs dedicated to the project management, open, let's say, to and available to the consortium of Blue-Cloud, where we, use the virtual lab for basically communicating, file exchange, and these kind of things. And then we have the synergies and event virtual labs that we can create on demand, depending on the type of synergies that we say encounter, and we are able to foster, let's say, during the project lifetime, and the events, in the case, for instance, of hackathons events that we have been doing during the past pilot project, and we will be doing even in Blue-Cloud 2026. Now, when the virtual labs do their research, so they search and finds the data through the Blue-Cloud data discovery and service. They import this data in the VRE. They use the analytics computing framework tools to analyze them, and they obtain other scientific results and other data sets. So we have what they can do. They can publish all this data, but also the services that they have, let's say, built during, by working on the virtual laboratory in the catalog. So the catalog offers the possibility to publish different types of research objects. In this slide, you see, we also use the catalog for publishing the deliverables that we produce in the project. But you can also see that we publish the service that are created and performed by the virtual laboratory itself, and the dataset that are produced, among other things. So in the next slides, you are going to see all these aspects. You will see, I will talk about the storage engine, the analytics computing framework features, and also I will discuss about the catalog and what virtual labs can do to exploit these facilities. So now we switch to the say what the VRE can do for the virtual lab. So what can a virtual laboratory do on the VRE? And I use this slide to where you see here there are four main say pillars here. So first of all, of course, from the left, you see that the Blue-Cloud VRE is accessible via web user interface, but also as a correspondent API for each of the service that are used by the virtual laboratory, and are exposed also by the virtual laboratories. And in here, you see the four pillars so we are going to discuss them now, that let's say lay on the infrastructure enabling services. So The core services for open science that the VRE offers are shown here on the right, the main category. So we are talking about the cloud storage, what we call workspace, the analytics, let's say analytics framework, the publishing one, and the scientific collaboration one. And let's say the added value here is that all of these services are interconnected and are easyable and interoperable. So the infrastructure and the VRE solves for you the problem of interoperability between these services. And then we will see very shortly how we do that. In terms of tools, of analytical tools, a virtual lab can use a configurable Jupyter Notebook environment by means of the Jupyter Hub tool. And here the added value is that the Jupyter Hub does not only leverage on the computing capacity of the infrastructures that are federated by the VRE, but it does also offer to the virtual lab user all the configuration and libraries that are needed by the virtual lab to perform, the research activity, the specific research activity and the topic of the research activity. So we offer also an RStudio version 4+ environment. There is the possibility to build your own Shiny apps and to provide the Shiny app as container and deploy it directly on the infrastructures. There is the analytics engine that is something that we as D4 Science have developed through time and is part of the infrastructure, and we're going to touch this as well. And then there is also the possibility to import and use a custom service or a custom application. So let's see now how the scientific collaboration can be defined, and how it facilitates the sharing of meaning and compassion of tasks with respect to the mutually shared superdeterminate goal. So let's see how Blue-Cloud 2026 and the previous Blue-Cloud pilot project promote the technologies enabling the sharing of dataset and software methods. So we start from the sharing partners. So the VRE offer what we call selective sharing, a partner called selective sharing, and we're going to see what it is, controlling sharing, and the publishing part. So selecting and controlling sharing are, technologies enabling the sharing of dataset and methods. And this can be done via the workspace service of the VRE. What is the workspace service of the VRE? It resembles a typical file system that is organized in folders, but it supports not only files, but also dataset, software methods, workflow, maps, and other different type of research products. So here you can see an example of its interface, but of course, it is accessible also via APIs. What are the main features of the workspace? So let's start from the folders. The workspace support private folders, shared folders, and VRE folders. Private means that you can create your own folder and, it's private, it's yours. No one can access it, but you can create a shared folder. So you can create a folder and then decide with which user you want to share the folder with. and this is the case of the selective sharing. Or, the other possibility is the controlled sharing. In this case, they are called VRE folders. VRE folders are the ones that are created automatically and associated with your virtual laboratory. So all the members of your virtual laboratory, let's say, are part of the sharing of a VRE folder named after the laboratory name. And you can manage permission over it. What you can also do is to share links, of course. In this case, you can click on a file or a folder of the workspace, and you can share a link that is private in the sense that only, let's say, for instance, if it is a shared folder, only the persons and the people in the shared controlled in the selective sharing can access the link, or you can create a public link that is accessible by anyone with the link. Of course, the workspace for support multiple file uploads, drag and drop. And it is worth a note talking about versioning histories and notifications. So we're going to see that right now. So this is the description of the different types of the folders, so private, shared, VRE folders, and public folders. And this is the slide about the type of permissions that you can enforce over this shared folder, the policies. Because when you share a folder with someone, you, let's say, may have concerns about the content of the sharing folder. So you may want to specify what the users in the share can do with the files that are in the folder. So there are three main, say, folder permission that you can set. One is what we call write-on. So this means that within a shared folder or a VRE folder, users can only update or delete their own files. They cannot modify files owned by other users. You can specify the write-any permission. In this case is, say, anarchy. I mean, any user can update, delete any file. There are cases where this is needed, of course. Or you can say, this is a read-only shared folder. I am the owner. I put the file in. You can only read them. You cannot modify the content of the files within that folder. So in fact, the shared folder owner, so the person, the user that creates the folder, can do anything, but it can do also nominate administrator to delete management and to delegate management rights. In this case, all the subfolders of a shared folder inherit parent permissions. And if you want to restrict the permission, you can do it, but not the opposite. So this is the, let's say, the login page, say the home page of the Blue-Cloud VRE gateway. And this is the landing page that you see when you say log in with your credentials. That, by the way, can be also, we of course we support also academic credentials or social credentials, Google. So you can log in with your identity provider. So we support many identity providers and basically many universities and research centers across Europe and also beyond. So if you want to access the workspace, once that you registered, you arrive here, you have to click on the folder icon here. And when you click on the folder icon, you will access the workspace. So if you want to share a folder with someone, you can right-click any folder and select the users. But as I say, some capabilities, these are the history and the versions are surely something, say, worth a note. So within a shared folder, you can always check and see what the users are doing with the content or with the files of the folder. For instance, here on the right, you see that you see the file of this of the kickoff meeting, the presentation that they did at the kickoff meeting of Blue-Cloud mid-February. So you can see that it says operation created. So it says Massimiliano Assante has created this, and it gives you the date. And then you can see that there are 14 operation of read. So there are 14 people that belong to the sharing that has read the presentation. And of course, if the other option or other operations performed, these are all tracked. So if anyone deletes something or rename a file, everything is, let's say, tracked in the history. But also, you can see on the left now that if you click on version, in the workspace, there is the possibility to automatic. It's transparent. Whenever you upload the files with the same name, a new version is automatically created for you. And you can see all the versions of one file and access and restore the previous version. In this case, on the left, you can see that there are 3 versions for one same file. Now, if we move a little bit lower to the storage layer, we see that of course, there is the workspace that support fault-tolerant, replicated, and compressed features among the ones that it offers, but let's say it is a bit slower, and because of the replication and the fault tolerance, is a bit slower than let's say a regular or a cloud storage. So if a community or virtual lab needs something that more, let's say, performant needs or large in volume, they can move to the data space that is faster and it has low latency. And if they need to, let's say, use ephemeral storage, volatile storage, there is also this possibility. So let's now talk about the publishing. So the publishing is performed via the catalog that is, say, a catalog of artifacts with the search and browse capability, where every published item is characterized by a type that highlights its features and an open-ended set of metadata. So each type can have associated its own set of metadata. And of course, an optional resource can represent the actual payload of the item. So here you can see a graph that gives you overview of what an item is. Basically, so you can, if you can see, the virtual lab is the organization governing the authorization attached to every item. An item can be public or private. You can say if it's searchable or not. A resource can be attached to an item. That can be a file, or can be, description on everything. There is also another dimension to categorize items, that is the groups. And then each item has tags, licenses, and attributes that describes it. So let's see, and of course the context-specific metadata. So let's see now an item example. This is a FAO aquatic species distribution map published in the catalog. You can see the title and description above, the tags, the organization that governs attached to the item, the license, and then the item payloads. In this case, are several files, species, say geospatial and geo files and XML formats. To each item, there is a possibility to attach a persistent URL, and a QR code is generated. And then you can see here the metadata that are were selected for this specific file. So for this specific item. Because everything is, say, connected in the infrastructure, from the workspace, you can publish on catalog. So from a folder, you can click publish on catalog, you can compile the metadata, select where you want to publish, select which item of the folder you want to publish, and you publish on the catalog. And what you can also do, you can upload the files on Zenodo. So any item that is in the catalog can be uploaded to the Zenodo community that can be configured. And in this case, of course, there's also a form that does it for you. And then, you decide the metadata mapping and everything, and then you just click. And in Blue-Cloud 2026, we are going to also, besides regularly registering the items in the Blue-Cloud catalog, they will be also made accessible through the EOSC Marketplace. So we will start doing this during the Blue-Cloud 2026 project lifetime. Let's talk about the analytics computing framework now. So there is the possibility to, of course, use an interactive notebook via Jupyter app that is delivered as a Docker container. So this is an example of say, a virtual lab. In this case, is the Plankton Genomics Blue-Cloud 1 virtual laboratories. In this case, they needed two server options that are, you can see here. So they needed one with the 16 core and 60 giga of RAM that would work with R, and another one still in R, but with less resources. And this can be configured specifically for the virtual laboratory. Here you can see RStudio, and one features that is also available on the Jupyter app part is that the workspace. So the workspace that we just saw before is available as, let's say, and is accessible from both Jupyter Hub and from RStudio. So you can say, you can search and find, let's say, some data set on the Blue-Cloud Data Discovery and Service. You can transfer them to the workspace. You can open RStudio. You will find the data set there for you, already available for doing your research. And then we have the analytics engine. That is, let's say, a software and a service that allow you to import your script or software via dedicated tool, a web tool that is we call software importer. And then via an automatic integration process, you will obtain a resulting web user interface that you can use to execute the process, and a web service, in the sense that the script that you import in the infrastructure will, be exposed as a web service endpoint. So if a user has the authorization, can call the method or the algorithm that was integrated. So the method engine, in this case, what is it? It is a tool that helps scientists in performing in silico experiments. There are a number of pre-cooked methods as a service that are already available for you, very different and very, and then they're made available by others. It performs calculation in a seamless way to the user, and most importantly, it allows to share the input, the results, and the parameters with colleagues by means of the virtual research environment. What does it mean? It means that any execution in the analytics engine can be repeated with or without the same input parameters. In fact, any execution that you do, you can see here an example, any computation that you do is, let's say, tracked. So we track of course, the input parameters that were used. We track the computation details. So when it started, when it ended, and the type of model algorithm that we used. And we save everything in the workspace. So also the output result is saved automatically for you. And in doing so, we use the standards. So we use the web processing service standard. We track, let's say, everything. We use provenance management for the, say, reproducibility. And we, of course, support the possibility of integrating these algorithms via the dedicated tool called software importer or SI. And this is this slide is just about gives you more information about the provenance. That is information about entities, activities, and people involved in producing a piece of data or thing which can be used to form assessment about its quality, reliability, or trustworthiness. This is the last slide on the analytics engine, just to clarify what is the workflow. So the workflow starts from the scientist with a script that uses the method importer. So basically we support any programming language that can run. So through the method importer, the scientists select and define which are the input parameters needed for its script. Then the main script and some auxiliary files are stored in a private workspace area of the scientist. And the code is published in the sense that it's compiled and contains only links to the code. So the compiled program, not the script, is copied on the machine. So you don't see, this guarantees, say, somehow the fact that you don't share the code with others if you don't want to. And then the cloud computing platform executes the code. So what does it do? What does it do? It downloads your script in a limited access folder, execute the script, return the outputs to the user, and destroys the folder and the script. And here is a very old, say, interface of the workspace. This is not, but just to make you understand the concept here. So every computation that you do in the analytics engine is stored in the workspace of the user, in a private folder of the workspace of the user. So so a data miner folder is created in the workspace of the users, a computation folder with the list of the computation is created automatically, and it contains the input datasets, the output dataset, and the provenance information that were used in the computation. And of course, there is also an overall input and overall output data for every say computation that you did. And what you can do is that you can share this folder with others in the virtual lab, so that you can work together and collaboratively on the definition of a model, on the definition of an algorithm. And because a web service is automatically created for you, you can use third-party software to invoke the model that you have imported. So you see here, just to recap what we saw, the workspace is a central and core part of the VRE because it is used, say, as a focal point by many services that the virtual lab can use. For instance, we saw that the analytics framework, the analytics engine, use it for persisting the input and output and the computation data. A workspace user can upload its files. Another user can share its files. And if you don't know yet, perhaps if you are external to the project, but the data discovery and access service also use the workspace to say, persist the data set that were discovered through the data discovery and access service. And then, of course, you can, the workspace is used, it is used for data analysis, for sharing the file folder with other user, but also to distribute the data set, the files that are contained in it through for instance, to publish on the catalog or distribute to other kind of, let's say, databases that are needed by the virtual lab scientists. And of course, you can download the files. And the workspace, say, backend service is called Storage Hub. They use different persisting and different storage technology to persist the data, and depending on the quality of service that is needed by the virtual lab community, for the virtual lab community at large. Now, you may wonder, what if I have my own web application? So you say, okay, as a virtual lab, I can use Jupyter, I can Jupyter Notebook, I can create my own notebook and make it available for others. I can use RStudio. Perhaps I can start with RStudio. I can then import my method in the analytics engine and let's say create a number of sub-services, a number of services that I can expose for others. But what if I have my own application, or what if I want to create my own web applications that in turn perhaps can call let's say the algorithms that I've imported in the analytics engine. So this is possible, of course, and let's see how. So in Blue-Cloud, we support also custom services by the mean of the containerized application. So a containerized application are applications that run in an isolated runtime environment, the containers, and the containers encapsulate the application with all its dependencies, including system libraries, binaries, and configuration files. So what you can do if you have your own web application or your own custom service, is that you can, say, create a container image that include everything that a container needs to run. And the container engine that we use is Docker. So you have your app, you have your dependency, you can build your container image, and let's see how we can manage it. So, so as I said, in Blue-Cloud, we use Docker as container engine, and this is basically just a representation of what Docker does. And you can share these images, the container images, via public or a private container registry. So we use Docker Hub or any other registries that is compatible with the same Hub APIs. And what you can do, we can configure say the registry, so as to be able to pull your image and run it in the container engine that we offer. So this solves the part of the hosting. So you have built your own, you have your own web application, you containerize it, you say, publish it on a container registry, and you tell us, look, my application, my container, or my containers are there. But we, we are not interested only in the hosting, and you are not interested only in the hosting, because when you build your own, when you offer your own, let's say, service, you have to do also a number of other, you have to consider also a number of other aspects, for instance, the authentication and authorization, the user roles management, the authoring and accounting, the metrics and monitoring. Because, why? Because when you, say, import your application or your service in the infrastructure, you have to let the VRE user, authenticate transparently with your application. So in Blue-Cloud, you see that we offer a number of technologies and standards to perform this task, as well as the roles management. And then you want to know, perhaps you are interested to know who is doing what with your application. So you want to say enforce some auditing or accounting on your application. And then, of course, your application needs to expose metrics, and so that it can be monitored. So that, if anything goes wrong, or the service goes down, or also to see how the application is performing with respect to the users using it, you can see what the users are doing with your application. So let's start from the the authentication authorization. So the Blue-Cloud VRE use the key cloak identity and access management as open source technology. And it offers, of course, a single sign-on and identity brokering as social login. And your, your application can be integrated with standard protocol such as OpenID Connect, OAuth2, and SAML. So the idea is that, when you import your application, you can, by using the standard, offer this kind of login that you see here in the slide to the user. So the user of Blue-Cloud doesn't need to create a dedicated account to use your application. For auditing accounting, Blue-Cloud use the D4Science smart proxy technologies that is based on NGINX NJS smart proxy technology, and then NJS technology. So what we can do basically is that we can, this is a bit technical, but we can place a barrier on top of your backend service that not only can do, say, auto enforcement, but also can do, can extract accounting and auditing information and send them to the infrastructure service that is dedicated to that part. And this barrier, the NGS barrier, can be extended with few lines of JavaScript code to support the specific needs of your application. For instance, we can, do some header extraction, parsing and adaptation of custom tokens and other things that, we will be covering these very technical aspects on dedicated, let's say, training events, or let's say tutorial, webinar, whatever. But this is just to let you know that it is possible to do this. And we do use, let's say, Prometheus as an open source system for monitoring and alerting. So Prometheus is a multi-dimensional, features a multi-dimensional data model with time series data that are, identified by metric name and key value pairs. The collection of these time series happens in pool mode over HTTP protocol, and it supports a flexible query language to leverage this dimensionality. And when you collect this, let's say this time series, you can use the multiple modes of graphing and dashboarding can be exploited by adopting Grafana, which allows us to query, visualize, alert, and understand Prometheus data on metrics. So this is an example. And I want to close on the automated deployment, let's say, pipelines that we offer in Blue-Cloud. So there is a continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline that can be, exploited when you import your own image. This is a specific example for the Shiny apps, but it can be extended for any other, let's say, container image. And in Blue-Cloud, we use Jenkins for building and deploying this so in this case, Docker Swarm cluster, but also Kubernetes is available. So, for instance, so this is the case. So let's talk about the Shiny case. But as I said, this is extendable. So you can build your own Shiny app. You can say Dockerize it, and you can make it available on Docker Hub or any other public container registry. And all we need is the image name and the run command. So what happens then? That we configure this once, and then whenever you need to upgrade to say the version, the version of your application, in this case our Shiny application, you just need to publish it on the container registry, on the public container registry, and then we will be notified. We will build the image and we will deploy it on the dedicated say container orchestrator that is available for that specific application. Now, these, let's say, conclude the technical part and the VRE introduction. You know that, as Pasquale introduced before, 5 demonstrators were developed during the Blue-Cloud pilot project. These are the 5 demonstrators. Each of these demonstrator, say, tackles a different scientific domain. So, for instance, the zoo and phytoplankton AOV products for biodiversity, plankton genomics for genomics. Then there is the global record of stock and fisheries for the fisheries, the aquaculture monitors for the aquaculture, and the demonstrator that Francesco is going to talk about to, let's say, tell us what they do in Blue-Cloud 1 with the VRE offering, that is about environment. this is a very just, slide, a slide that shows some of the, let's say, applications that and the software that are used in different virtual laboratories on the Blue-Cloud VRE. So there are, just to let you know at a glance, just to give you a flavor of what the people working, the scientists working in the virtual labs are doing. And now we will focus on the marine environmental indicators part with Francesco. And so I guess that this is where my presentation concludes. Just to let you know that the marine environmental indicator is available on the web, and it's open for you to register at this URL above. So bluecloud.d4science.org web marine environmental indicator. So you can register if you wish after the presentation. These are the partners, but I guess that Francesco will tell us much more on this. So I now stop the share and see if Francesco can.
Thank you, Massimiliano. Good morning, everyone. I'm starting to share. Yeah, okay. So, good morning. I'm Francesco Palermo. I work at CMCC, which is a scientific research center on climate change, the Euro-Mediterranean Center of Climate Change. It is based in Italy. And we already participated at the Blue-Cloud project in the first phase, in the pilot phase, where we designed and developed our demonstrator, the marine environmental indicators, which was the demonstrator for trying to use the Blue-Cloud, this new cloud infrastructure, for producing the environmental indicators. So let's start from the starting point. We, as a research institution, we were used to produce the marine, in particular, environmental indicators. So we started with the pre-calculated indicators. We had the algorithms for study of the sea conditions and trends for annual, seasonal, and monthly periods, for example. And we used to use the data sources from the CMMC, the Copernicus Marine Service, in particular the region of Med and the global, using the reanalysis products in their model data. But this kind of computation was done offline. Many years ago, we built a web application for presenting these products, but they were produced manually on a regular frequency, but manually. So with very static configuration. So for example, you can see here the maps for the seawater density plot for many years, from 1987 to 2066, or side the potential temperature plots, and below the time series. These images you are seeing now are indeed the products of the new of the May of the demonstrator for the Blue-Cloud. But just to explain that our need to produce the user configured environmental indicator has been resolved using the Blue-Cloud infrastructure and the demonstrator we designed. So this was our old status, and this is the new status after the end of the pilot phase of Blue-Cloud. So we were able to design and develop what we called May, which is a web application that allows us and all the Blue-Cloud users to build its own environmental indicator, and is cloud-based because it's based on the V4 Science infrastructure. So now it's possible for everyone registered user to request the online computation of the new indicators of new added value data with this quite easy web interface and with the configuration of the customized requests to send to the V4 Science data miner, which is the analytics, what is called the analytics engine. And this is the cloud-based computation engine that produces the new data. As you can see here, you can see a sample screenshot of this web interface, where you can see the map and on the center, the main part of the interface. And on the left, you see a series of drop-down menus, where the user can choose the method, so the algorithms, just to understand, the algorithms he wants to use, and the output types he wants. For example, for ocean climate of CMCC, the monthly mean type, the monthly mean map, for example. You can choose also the data sources, the time range, the area, the depth, in case of 3D data sets, and also additional specific parameters that we were able to consider. Going back to the VLab landing page, I will go later to show you how the main interfaces work. In the VLab homepage, you can see this is our current version of the VLab. This is fully configurable by the administrator of the lab. You can see here we put the description of our demonstrators with a presentation of what it contains, with the links to all the products we developed during this pilot phase. We together with our partners such as KNMI, IFREMER, and the others. So from this land page, you can reach the other products developed using the VRE services, such as not only the main generator web app, but also the Jupyter Notebook. And on the left, I put a collection of the buttons, the header button you can see on top of these screenshots, with the different available VRE services that have been enabled for this VLab. You can see here the list. The first one is the software importer. Then there is the analytics engine, the catalog, the Jupyter Hub, at the end, the main generator, which is not really a VRE service, but is the service we built in the VRE. So this is a list then of the VRE services used by May. I said already of software importer. This is a very important tool for importing your code. Like we used only Python code. And when you import your code, you will find it available on the analytics engine. On the right, you see a screenshot from the analytics engine, so the data miner interface, where you can insert your input. We set only just one input for the main interface, which contains all the input embedded, all the inputs we defined. Then you can also find the Jupyter Hub, which is the collector of the Jupyter Notebooks available. The catalog that we used for, you can see on the right, the screenshot for the catalog. We use it for collecting the main generator itself and all the notebooks with all the information about the provenance of the authors, every metadata we need to describe. And also here I list in the list you can find also other services, VRE services, which are not so you cannot see them on the VLab, but they are in some way hidden. because they are used programmatically, like the authentication services on REST API that we used with from the web application for authorizing the users. The WPS, which is used by the web app for interacting with the data miner, and the storage hub, which we used for the input data for handling the data, and the Docker containers that were very, very important because they allow us to build the main framework, which is you can see later from next slides, that it is built the Docker the main web app is the main framework is composed by many containers. So the web app is the front end, but there are backend services. Here I put some the workflows we followed for integrating the algorithms in the VLab. So you can see the algorithms were developed in Python 3. They were originally developed in Python 3. So there are two branches. We follow the Jupyter Hub. So we use the Jupyter Hub services for collecting the Jupyter notebooks. And the second branch on the right is the branch that arrives to the main generator. So you can find here the steps we follow for giving to the web interface the connection with the data analytics and with the data miner for generating the required data. So the first step is the software importer, of course, because you need to import your code. Then in the analytics engine, you can find your code and you can run it. And it's in this phase, the code is available and to be managed, to be controlled, to be run through the WPS protocol. And then there's a phase of just for the mail, because there is I said the backend services. That's a phase of the configuration of these services for include all the information about the algorithms. And then the main generator will be able to show you the algorithms. So next slides, I will show how the workflow works for the web app. So the first step is to select the method of interest and the output type and the data source. So you can see in the screenshot, at first you have to it's a requirement. You have to select the method in the variables one, and you can see there are ocean climate produced by CMCC, ocean pattern by IFRMR, and storm severity index by CNR-ISTI. When the methods has been selected, you can select the output types available for that methods and the data sources that methods use. Only for, in particular for ocean climate, the user can choose the type which is the variables you want to use during the algorithm's execution, among several possibility type of outputs. I mean, maps or time series or climatologies, etc. In the second step, the user can select the time range of interest, which is very related, obviously, with the data sources, the area, the depth, and other specific parameters that can change between methods and another. So the user can see on the map the region is selecting. It's kind of subsetting the region, and on the left he can see the time range is selected and the depth. After he decided that all the parameters are good for this request, he can submit the request with the end buttons at the end of the column, and he can the web app will take care of submitting the job to the data miner through WPS protocol. The user can submit many parallel jobs because he can decide, for example, to change some parameters for the indicators generations, and then he can choose, for example, different areas or different depths, etc. So in the tab, in the header tab, called My Requests, each user has this section that displays all the submitted requests. And when the job is completed, you can click on the show button. And otherwise, if it fails, you can access to the log files. And the information the user can find in this table are many. It's the method name, the creation time, the status of the job, the data source, the output type, etc. And this interface is dynamic, so it changes during the time because the web application do a continuous polling to the data miner to get new information. So all this many of this information you can see in the table are taken from the WPS answer, the XML the data miner provided to the web application. The other ones are being collected by backend services we design in a different container. When the execution ends, if it is completed successfully, you can see the output. Here, for example, is the ocean climate output for the climatology map. It's the same for the other methods. So you can see the plots, the output they produce, but also you can download an SDF format that produces the data output and all the log files, because which are very useful for understanding and for debugging the tools or the protocols, or even the end of if the algorithm is running. Okay, these are an example of the plots we produce in the May for the ocean patterns method, which has been developed by Ifremer, which also produced many the notebooks for generating these indicators. And for example, I put here the spatial distribution of classes or PCM robustness. Okay, another methods you can find in the current version of May. It's the Storm Severity Index, SSI, developed by and designed and developed by KNMI. And here you can find the two outputs available now, which are the maps and the time series. Okay, just a few words about the May generator architecture, because we, as I said, we used many VRE services, but we also developed our services for the backend part in particular. So with interaction with the web application, the first things that happen is the authentication. And this is it is done with the VRE services that is responsible to authenticate the user. Then when the user do its configuration for the methods, etc., and is ready to send the request, the web application interacts with the you can see the blue box in the center of the image, which is the May WPS web services. Is the backend services we developed for translating the for simplifying the interaction between the WPS and the web application. The WPS XML files reach then the methods on the data miner, and then it takes the responsibility to run the execution it's needed. You see in the right the data miner box in the green. And the data miner at the end, if the methods complete correctly, the data miner put the outputs in the storage and also the logs files. And in this phase, the web application is ready to access the outputs, which are available on the data miner. In the meanwhile, during this workflow, this interaction, there's another backend services which is the mail register. It's a database we set up for collecting all the information which are not contained in the WPS interaction. So many information we used it to present to the user. For example, the data we use in the request, or this kind of information. And then the mail register is built with Spring, and he uses MariaDB database. All these, the blue box are different containers, so Docker containers. And on the right, bottom right, you can see the technologies we use. The web application is written in React, and the web service is written in Flask. So the languages we used during this development are mainly JavaScript and Python. The main generator is a tool that is quite easy to extend for including other methods. And for this, we have developed an IDL. It's interface definition languages for the definition of the input parameter that WPS method expect to start any processing. So we defined a series of parameters that we want to consider when we want the execution of the algorithms in the data miner. And any WPS method which is compliant with such IDL can receive a processing request from the main web interface. And when the method becomes available to the web interface, then it's loaded inside the mail register, and the interaction can start. So the user, the method will become available on the interface with all its information. So the output types available, the variables, the data sources, etc. As you have seen in the previous slides. Okay, many things remains to do during the Blue-Cloud 2026. So it's ongoing work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesco, and all of the speakers. So Massimiliano as well, and Pasquale. So actually, probably all of you can also turn on your camera. And maybe let's go through some of the questions that we have received during the webinar. I see that probably Lino has already replied to some of them in writing, but maybe if you want to expand on some of them, also for the audience that joined later, because of course it was a long webinar, so some people might have joined afterwards. So there was that question about the RStudio and RShiny apps that are distinct from Jupyter Hub. So will there be an R kernel available in Jupyter Hub as well? So if you can reply to that as well.
Yes, Federico. So what I said, also replying, in the Q&A section, is the fact that R can be used through Jupyter Hub, but is not only this. I mean, we configure all the environment, so with pre-configured libraries that are indicated by the community. So And in this way, the user can use Jupyter, RStudio, or, even the, the computation engine, with the same pre-configured, environment, in such a way that he can move the software from one environment to another. As also Francesco said, for example, they start, using developing the notebooks, and then they integrate, the software in the engine. So this is, we in Blue-Cloud, we proved, that this approach is very useful. There was also another question that is, related to this, is the fact that, by pre-delivering, clearly libraries, we need also to assure that clearly the environment can evolve while keeping, the already integrated workflows running. And I explained, in the answer, that we can deliver different environments in different configuration of the environments, in the different VLabs. So for example, the Jupyter lab that is exploited in the Francesco virtual laboratory may be different from the VLab that is exploited, in another environment, because, Francesco and his team, request, specific version of the libraries and so on. So in this way, we can support very fine-grained, configuration, and again, leaving the scientists and the researchers, to work on their domain, without taking care instead of all these technical details about, computation and execution.
Thank you. There is a new question actually from Juan Miguel. I think this one is more targeted at Massimiliano probably. So he's asking when will there be a possibility for a hands-on session, like on the training on how to develop a virtual lab for the consortium partners?
Yes, of course. We can adopt the same. I mean, during Blue-Cloud 1, there was COVID. So we basically have done everything on Zoom or any other, say, conference platform. And we can surely keep doing this way. But I think that we could also think about something physical. So we may, in presence, so we may organize some sort of event or training event, or I don't know, tutorial, whatever. So a couple of days or 3 days where we, really focus with virtual lab scientists and developers, and, put this, let's say, training and explain to the scientists and the developers how to do this, the same thing that May did and Francesco and his team did in the previous project. So I think we can adopt let's say, a hybrid approach. Whenever something is needed, let's say, very, very focused, we can do an online call, and then probably we can gather also soon, like in May or June, with the VLab developers and scientists, and do something like, in presence.
Thank you. There was another question, which I think Lino has already replied, but I think it's probably always useful to also say, like, in words. So there was Alexander, which was asking, in the previous project, we should not run Jupyter notebooks from the shared workspace, but copy them to the home directory before running them. So is that still the case? And if yes, when will it change, if will it change?
Yes, as I said, at present, it is still the case. Since, as Massimiliano presented in his presentation, your shared workspace include a number of features, for, encryption, for replication, to make, the environment fault tolerant, that introduce, some latency when you access the data. So we suggest, in Blue-Cloud 1, to copy the notebook, from the workspace to the, let me say, to the storage that is local to the Jupyter cluster. That can be the data space that is, specific, volume that we mount, in the Jupyter environment, or to the local storage of the environment. So this is still the case, but we are working on a new evolution of our storage cloud storage, so that will solve, will make this transparent for the users. So it will be possible, to properly, open the notebooks from the workspace. We need the time, clearly, to develop a new technology to validate before delivering it. But, it is in the plan of the Blue-Cloud 2026 project.
Thank you. At the moment, I don't see any new questions. I don't know if there's any from the audience. Any new questions from the audience? Yes, it seems there is one from Alexander. So to simplify the testing notebook for external users, the binder service is very useful, and as one can share a link on which the user only needs to click to access the notebook in an interactive environment. Would this user case also be possible with D4Science? I don't know, should I ask Alexander to expand? I can ask him to open the microphone if needed.
Perhaps if I understand that they want to share a link with others so that the notebook is open right away. Is this the case, Alexander?
Let's hear from him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So for me, it's okay if the user still has to register. Okay. So, and maybe he has already an account. So just to give him a link that he can directly access the notebook without needing to navigate into various environments which are also available. So that would be really useful.
So you'll a link that, so the user arrives, enter the credentials, and then is taken to the Jupyter instance where the notebook is already open.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
Because some notebooks need to have a specific environment, right? So
yeah,
some notebooks are written in different Julia versions, for instance, or different kind of memory, and so the user might take the wrong environment actually to test a notebook out. So
correct.
That could simplify actually what the user has to take. It only has to click a link, and somewhere in this link there's also metadata, which notebooks to open in which environments to open, things like this.
yes.
Shall I take the answer, Massimiliano?
Whatever.
So yes, I mean, this is a very, let me say, nice requirement. We do not have yet a service. I mean, a solution, but for sure, we can deliver it, because in the infrastructure, in the Blue-Cloud VRE, any resource has a persistent identifier, and then we have a URI, a URI resolver for many of these persistent identifier, such a way that you can share a link to a file or to an application or to a method of the data miner or computation engine and so on. We do not provide this feature for the notebooks, but this is something that we can extend, our URI resolver, URI resolver, to also consider, to make a directly accessible, a notebook in a specific virtual laboratory where it can be executed. So this is something that we can put in our, task list, and in order to deliver a solution.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's see if there's any other questions from the chat. Okay. There are, okay, so a wizard-like approach could address this issue, perhaps? That's from Sabrina.
I mean, yes and no. It depends, right? You know, what was proposed by Alexander, right? Was the name was, you know, really to simplify. You know, just a link that, you know, open you the environment in the right place, because as we said before, you know, the virtual labs can be configured, you know, in you know, with the specific packages, with the specific version and so on. So today, to share, you know, a notebook, you have to share the notebook as a file, but you have also to tell to the person, right, that you have to go, for example, to the marine environmental indicators and open that file that you get through the sharing. Instead, you know, with the direct link, you know, this will be simplified. So we may use, you know, we use Wizard, you know, to assist the users, you know, in many operations. We may assist, you know, the users when the link is generated, but when the link is generated, then, you know, the other user, you know, will just follow the link and will arrive to the right place.
Okay.
There is also another question. Could you also include members of Workbench work package for the training session on VRE? Because what will be done, in the Workbench work package is close to what is done in VLabs, correct? This is correct.
I guess so. I mean, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, that's probably an interesting question also in general. So like, how will the workbenches be different from the virtual labs in terms of the interface and the experience? Because that's something we don't have at the moment, right? I mean, how do you envision them to be, just as a thought?
I can take this one, at least with my knowledge. I mean, the workbenches will be at, you know, environments where we offer, you know, the technology that they need to develop, you know, their work, but they will be, you know, really working environments. So, so places where, you know, the members of the workbench, you know, can develop, test, and, you know, validate, can share, you know, previous, you know, partial results and so on. So the workbench is not intended to become, you know, a demonstrator in the sense that not to become an open access service, you know, for the general community. While, you know, the demonstrators that we support instead, as the marine environmental indicators, you know, in the previous project, they start as a private virtual laboratory where they develop and integrate their own technology. Then they change, you know, the access policy to the virtual laboratory, moving from private to restricted, so allowing other members of the consortium, you know, to access, you know, and provide feedback to the virtual laboratory. And then, you know, when they were ready, you know, they made, you know, accessible as open access, you know, the service, so the web application and the services they developed. So that in terms of technology, you know, the environments would be virtual environments or on a cloud infrastructure. In terms of, let me see, behavior, they will be different, you know, because the virtual laboratories, you know, will evolve, you know, to become open access service. The workbenches, you know, will evolve to deliver, you know, new data sets. So not to deliver, you know, services to the large community.
Thank you. I believe that was the last question. Just a final check. But there's just a comment from Sabrina saying, okay, your answer made sense about the link. It was not a generic wizard, but rather controlled, making use of the backend tools that you described earlier. I think this is a discussion that will be taken up anyway in the technical work in the upcoming weeks. Okay, so I believe that was all. So thanks everybody. Thanks for joining this first meeting of the Blue-Cloud Training Academy. It was very nice for us to welcome you, both members of the old consortium, members of the new consortium, external enthusiasts of Blue-Cloud. So we hope to have even more of you in the future. So feel free to test both the general virtual research environment and the specific example that Francesco has presented with the marine environmental indicators. Follow the Blue-Cloud website for the upcoming ones. So know that there will be more webinars on different topics, on the different services, the different things that we will develop. So keep on following Blue-Cloud, and we will see you soon for another event. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.